Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Unleashed and Uncensored, the Inline Canine Podcast. I'd like to welcome today's guest, Mike Anderson, former OPS officer, co-founder and owner of Nobility Performance, located here in Stittsville, and the chair of the Ottawa chapter for the Ride for Dad. So thanks for coming today. Appreciate it.
Fancy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is good.
Yeah, so I would like to, give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah.
A bit about your background in the emergency protective services.
Yeah.
Kind of walk us through some of that, and we'll dive into some business stuff. If you
For
don't mind.
sure. Yeah. So late 90s, I guess it was. I was
you're old.
Yeah, I know. It's this patch of gray right here. Late 90s, I actually moved to Ottawa, pursue schooling and policing is what it was. And my uncle was a police officer in Ottawa, and I had another uncle that was actually in the OPP. And, they both suggested that stay away from emergency services completely. So as a rebellion teen, I ignored them, and I
Did exactly that.
went into the schooling for that world. But then actually I started with in the 90s, I started with Nepean bylaw. Is my original world of emergency services, and they were actually under the police department at the time. And so it was that was kind of the original entry.
Because Nepean was separate from
Exactly.
Ottawa.
Yeah. So the cities hadn't amalgamated at that point. So they, as a full service, they hadn't amalgamated, and so they were still partly under the regime of the old Nepean service, and then eventually Ottawa took them over. And so, anyways, I got into that world and started that, and then kind of, not to bore everybody with my career, but ended up going over to the city of Ottawa, went into a management role within the city of Ottawa after I'd had a number of spinal surgeries. I got injured actually on the job, and that led to getting paralysis on my left side. Fast forward a few years, every 2 years at that point, I was having spinal surgery.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. And
Well, that's got to take its toll on, not only personally, but your family and everything.
oh, for sure. At the time, I had 2 young kids,
Yeah.
scared shitless, like literally. What am I going to do? How am I going to, finish on a career, and what are my options? And I was very fortunate that a couple of the higher ups with the Ottawa Police Service, one of them particular knew my uncle, and he had asked if I was interested in filling in the community policing side,
Okay.
where it was more desk world,
Yep.
but still in the community initiative world.
Yeah.
So I ended up working a lot of years, actually. I had a shift partner there, and we worked a lot of years together in Lower Town in Vanier, and
Okay.
which was a much needed
Yeah.
thing in
Yeah.
those communities. Definitely needed that presence and that community involvement, which is something that I thrived in. I loved it, and I think anybody that has an opportunity in that world will enjoy it if you like community stuff, right?
You, a people person?
Yeah, no, people person
Don't buy
talking.
it.
Go
Don't buy
figure.
it. Yeah.
So welcome to our 8-hour podcast. So that's how it all started then. And then I continued to have spinal surgeries
Yeah.
at that point. And then I went into a management role actually with the city, and did that for a number of years. And then I got to a point where I was just done with it. I went through some hard times there. And certainly it played a lot on me physically and mentally. And I was just kind of at a point where I had over 23 years in at this point, and I was done.
Yeah.
So that was, looking back now, that's a lot of years ago, but
Yeah.
literally walked away. Everybody thought I was crazy. And
Yeah, when you're that close to the pension,
For sure.
different things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're told. Get a pension, get a pension, get a pension. Yeah.
well, I think, looking back now, I think it's like our parents' generation that is so fixated on that career job. You have to have the pension. You have benefits, and you have all these things.
Can't take chances.
No.
To be safe.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's how, probably both of us got into the world we're in, right?
Yeah.
It's like that was ingrained in us. And as a result of that, it led to some very good things. Like we both have had great lives, right? Like,
Yep.
you and I have been friends for a number of years, and we swapped stories over the years, and there's been a lot of great times, but at the same time, I look at it and it certainly affected both of us physically and mentally,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't sign up and hear about those things though, right? So, so that becomes a big contributing factor to career changes, I think, with people.
Yeah.
And then, so for me, I mean, as a result of that, I ended up, I saw that the judicial system as a whole was very flawed.
Yeah.
And then I saw that our health system was very flawed. And
where did you leave physically at that point? Like where were you when you were done? How were you with your spinal surgeries and everything? Like where?
Yeah. So when I left, I was actually, had another back surgery. My back was not in a good place, and my mental health was terrible. So I had been diagnosed with PTSD, and then I just didn't have the support system in place from the city of Ottawa as a whole. And I mean,
What year was this?
it's
That happened?
2015, 2016.
Yeah, I feel like that was
timeframe.
the push on mental health, especially from the Afghan era too, from the military side. Yeah.
Because 2017 was when legislation came into effect that PTSD could be deemed a workplace injury.
Okay.
Right. So it was in around that time frame. So at that point there was more discussion about it, but at the same time, it really wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
By all means, and it's not perfect today, but
Yep.
from what I've seen, it seems to be a lot more effective. So, anyways, it was during that time frame, I literally was going through it where I was told numerous times I had to get re-diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, you ever have someone who's struggling with mental health, and
Put that on their plate.
you put that, and then they're like, fill out all this paperwork, and you're not sleeping at night, and you have night tremors, and you have all these things going on, and I mean, it's a shit show.
So it's funny just on VAC and you know, that piece of forcing you to kind of reprove it. I had a guy that I was deployed with in 2005 and 06. He lost his leg in an IED, and we were QRF to that scene, and we showed up, and he was already taken back to our camp and getting into surgery. So Master Corporal Paul Franklin at the time. And he had to prove that he was still missing his leg. Like VAC had, you know, I mean, there was nothing in place. These measures weren't kind of, and it was just, and he shared so many stories about this, like on socials and everything. It's like, it's still gone. You know what I mean? Like you haven't grown it back.
Hasn't grown back.
Yeah. So it was quite interesting to hear that. And then to put that on a mental health perspective, that I can't imagine the frustration that brings on too, because there's so many hoops to jump through. And I get it can't be super easy, because then you have a lot of people who maybe shouldn't be taking services or advantage, but I get there's a way that it needs to be cleaned up a bit. I agree.
I completely agree. I mean, and the other thing that I found is, like, look at the team of you that were deployed, and they're dealing with, you're dealing with him for losing his leg. Mm-hmm. How traumatic is that? Like, when you see the things that you've seen, the average person, nobody should ever see those things, first of all, let alone the average person will never see those things unless it's in a movie, and it'll be dumbed down.
Yeah.
And you're going through that, and yet they probably would question you if you had PTSD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a very flawed system in that sense. I mean, to this day, like, one of the, I don't using the word trigger, but one of the things that drives me batshit crazy is when
that'll work.
I see the Bell Let's Talk.
Yeah.
I've literally watched individuals that are less than good human beings with their sign up of, here, I'm here to talk, I'm here to listen to you, and all this, all full of shit. And it's a media ploy.
It's just to get likes and everything.
Exactly. And it's like, man, they're not there. Like, it's like, I had a colleague of mine that was suicidal, and literally I would meet up with him, and he was kind of getting raked under the coals with the city, and the same people that were holding those signs were the same people trying to not give him help and fire him. Yeah. And
it goes both ways, right?
Like,
it's like, it's almost like an insurance company. Hey, let's find any way to not pay you, but we're here to support you.
But we're here to support you.
Okay.
It doesn't work like that, right? So anyways, so during that process, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about mental resilience. I learned a lot about coping mechanisms, and started really applying those things. So I really, I took a whole other perspective on health and wellness. And that's, as a result of that, I was doing on my own, like cold immersion and those types of things. And they were highly effective for me. And as kind of a serial entrepreneur, I was like, you know what? I can do better.
There's a gap. Yeah.
There's a gap. And I, from my personal experience, I was like, you know what? I think I can put the right team together to fill that gap. Right. And so that's essentially conversations originally with a buddy of mine and who's a chiropractor, and Brian, and you know, we had talked and we were like, okay, he was new into the career. He had graduated from chiropractic school in New York. We both grew up back in the Perth area, and you know, when we were very like-minded when it came to health and wellness as a whole. And through his work with the Special Forces experience, actually, that Jeff runs,
Ducati.
Exactly. Yeah. So he had been volunteering for Special Forces experience for a couple of years, and he'd been working at the time with an MD, Ben, and Ben was a ER doctor and did family medicine. And Brian came to me and said to me, you know, like, I think that this would be a good fit. You know, he brings a lot of knowledge, and certainly there's a skill set there, and let's have a conversation.
Start point for sure.
Yeah. And so I, at the time, was, I mean, ironically, I'm talking about living a different life. I was in Thailand working with the UFC at the time, and shooting for some of their stuff, and because I had worked with them for a number of times, and so I was coordinating 13 hours away with Brian and trying to organize everything, and I had the business plan all set up, and that was all organized, and so then fast forward, I flew back. I had flown back to Canada, and got a brick and mortar, and at the very, very beginning of COVID, started up our clinic, and you know, it was kind of surreal. It was like, what are we doing? I was walking away from that golden handcuff, right? Like they say, the pension benefits and all this stuff. But I was done with it. I was done with it in the sense of it was doing everything to hinder my health and wellness.
Yeah.
And
at the same point, you had to make the jump.
But at the same time, they were telling me, like, this is your safe bet. This is what you have to do. And I'm like, I'm not going to be alive to see my pension if I keep on this trajectory. Like, it's just not going to happen. And, you know, I count my lucky stars, and, you know, I have said I lived a blessed life, and I certainly live a blessed life, but like, that's when I changed in my mindset. And I said, I'm going to focus on myself, my health, well-being, because I can't be alone on this one. I know there's other people that are going through what I'm going through, and we have to collectively work as a community and start making those changes. And, you know, and it was a conversation over coffee at my house, dining room table. And, you know, it was like, okay, are we like-minded individuals? Do we have, obviously we had, you know, we're like, okay, we have the resources to open this, but like, what long-term do we have to work on to make this successful, and how do we get people in and that? And it really became a matter of the doors open, and it was military and police officers and firefighters and paramedics through the door. It was the network, right? Like they say that. So that's really where it took off. And I mean, we had one massage therapist, one chiropractor, and then myself, and they were working out of one room because we didn't have the frosted glass on the other window, so we couldn't have anybody undressing or anything like that in rooms. And I mean, it was as ghetto as you can. I mean, my first interview to hire staff was in the parking lot because they hadn't given me the keys yet to the door. I mean, how do you describe that? Like, please have faith in me. Like, come work for me. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure we have access. We're good.
Yeah. So that's how Nobility Performance.
I love the
came
name
about, right? So Brian had the word nobility, and we had talked about noble and things of noble, right? And so we were thinking of that, and then we're like, well, we want to get in the performance world, and we want to do that. So we just kind of combined those, and then we had we already had the spine for our logo, and then Brian and I had sat down and were playing with ideas for when in my branding world, I was like, well, we need a logo, and so change the logo for the NP as a pyramid, and just plastered that everywhere we could, right? Like it was just trying to get that brand recognition out there. And,
Because I jumped on with you guys pretty early. Like
sure.
my wife had been recommended to you for, I believe, chiro. And I was like, I had a chiro. Or it was physio. I was seeing physio at work, but then eventually I had to transition to the civilian side. And it's like, oh, this is a place where for, first responders, everything like that. And she's like, well, I go here. Well, there's a chiro here. Why don't you go there? I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. So I got the paperwork done through you and haven't looked back. So
no, it's crazy to think like, I mean, I look now back at, over the years and we're over 4 years going strong and it's, I mean, we have thousands and thousands of patients now. We have brand recognition through not just our community, but through the region now.
A wide variety of patients.
Very much.
It's not just EMS. It's not just a lot of bodybuilding, a lot of like there's everything in there. Everyday walk of life people.
Yeah, that was like, I think
SENS coaches.
Like the SENS, and disclosure, I can say this because they've said that I could, but we've been fortunate to have like right at the very beginning, a friend of mine had won 3 Mr. Olympias at the time, Chris Bumstead, and he ended up coming in for treatment, and at that time had actually was like, well, what can I do to help you guys? And he just sat down. We started shooting video just like this, and did that, posted it, thinking this is going to explode the industry. And then Al social media took it down, said it was copyright using his voice. Like, what are you talking about? No. He's really the person. But tried to get through to TikTok and all these companies, and it was a disaster. So that didn't quite work out as planned.
Phoning China at 2 a.m.
2 a.m. didn't work, right? So, and then to translate through Google was a problem. So we, but it finally worked out. We just took a lot of time to, and I got to thank colleagues of mine because they just truly wholeheartedly believed in some of the vision that I had, whether it was a color palette, the black walls in a clinic, having sofas and a love seat and having a coffee bar and things like that, so that it didn't feel like a stuffy clinic.
No,
that was a big thing, right?
Yeah. But it's not so much that it's like this tranquil green room that police and military don't like, you know what I mean? But it's not just stuffy either. It's a nice medium, and it's very friendly, very stop in for coffee type thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, how many times have you gotten Flavor Daddy and just come and hung out,
all
right?
the time,
and you're not the only one, right? Like every time you come, there's already people there. So
I feel like we're setting up for a Flavor Daddy advertisement.
Yeah, I know. Flavor Daddy brought to you.
10%. Use the code inline.
Ben, Sam, come on, because
exactly. So
and it's just one of those things where but back to the community, Flavor Daddy's down the street from us, and it's just we really worked on what was important is that community involvement and getting out there with the community and helping, because again, I felt lost when I was going through it with my spinal surgeries and my PTSD, and it just felt like I was in limbo. Here, go here, go here, go here, but nobody was resolving any of the issues. So I just, as much as I was advocating for myself, it just didn't feel like it was necessarily going anywhere. And not to say I did have great work with certain practitioners, and I mean, one of them who was my RMT for 3.5 years, I ended up bringing him onto the clinic. So it certainly was a matter of just working with the community and learning from my experiences what I didn't like, and then making sure that didn't happen, right? So the big thing was a one-stop shop. Everybody was talking to each other. All the practitioners worked together, which wasn't the approach that the experience I had with other places. And I want to make sure that there's a lot of community involvement with it, right? So
you've identified this gap, worked, built a community, started to build out the clientele, the base. What specific services do you currently offer? And what can we expect maybe in the future?
In the future,
should you wish to share?
Future's gonna be big. It's very promising. So right now we have so fast forward, my which you were there for the proposal, but my fiance is a chiropractor.
I was.
And it took her. She didn't want to get involved with this. This is my baby. She's like, you run with it. She was at a different practice, and took her about a year to see how much business we were doing.
Yeah.
And with the gap where she specializes in back injuries and such because of me.
Yep.
So she saw that there was a need for that. And we had so many first responders notorious for back injuries, right?
Yep.
And so she came over, and so there's Brian and her who are the chiropractors. Then we have 4 massage therapists.
So 2 chiros, 4 massage therapists.
Two of our front desk people I had hired a year and a half ago. They're just completing up their massage therapy school. Now I have them converting from front desk over to massage therapy. So
Full circle.
Now, so now 6. Well, it's about strategic planning, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Always have the steps going.
They're involved, right? They're part of the community at that point. That's the difference. Yeah.
They're already known amongst the people who are there, and we get to know them, and they're amazing. Like, they're absolutely amazing people. So, so now have 6 RMTs that will be like coming over shortly. Then on top of that, registered dietitian. We have unfortunately one of them had to leave, and we have another one coming on board because she's working for the government. So have that. We have a physiotherapist.
Yep.
We got this absolute amazing person, Alexia, from Switzerland. That's just a brilliant mind as a physiotherapist, and she's come over. So we have her now. We have cold water immersion. We have compression therapy. We have bought the first of its kind for full body photobiomodulation pod itself in Canada. So went down to Toronto Raptors, used their pod, tried it out, bought one. So we have that, which is a game changer in the community. It really is.
Which has recently been approved through
so Ottawa Police
size,
insurance now, it's been approved. They're seeing the benefits, and they want to be able to get members.
That's a real big change
quickly.
in policy and understanding. Like, I'm surprised it happened so quickly, and I'm super impressed with their ability to pivot on that as well. So
it started that whole thing started with their then president, Matt Scoff. Matt and I had conversations about it, and it was, okay, what is Light going to do for you? And it was one of those things where you just have to, obviously they're not going to buy into anything where they don't do the research in it. So it was a matter of spending a lot of time and energy getting the research out there to them. And then eventually Matt retired, and then another Matt Cox came in, and Matt Cox I knew from the past, and went through everything with him, and Matt Cox did a brilliant job of really pushing the insurance company, saying, listen, we have
quick. So,
we have members that are off for some cognitive stuff, mental health, physical injuries. This is something that we can buy into here. Like, this stuff works. And as a result, we got it approved, and that's been amazing for the not obviously the clinic, but it's been amazing for the members. Because the members themselves now are being able to return to work, live a normal life again. And I mean, a lot of people, they hear headlines, but they don't see what the damage is done physically and mentally to the members. This is one aspect of it that really helped. And again, the service loves the idea that there's that connection of all the services together.
Intertwined. Absolutely.
So that's why it's been really effective with that. So we have all of that. Right now we're working, actually talking about VAC, and that we're working with a woman who's coming on to do social work and doing some work to integrate. She's worked a lot with vets, but work to do integration for veterans that are transitioning from to the civilian side. And because as you kind of get lost,
which is no fucking joke, by the way.
It's
it might, and this, sorry to interrupt you on this, but it might look easy on the outside, or a lot of people put on the face, put on the smile. Remember, you see, just like social media, in terms of you see what people you want people to see. That's the same in real life, man. It really hit home when you see, like, there's like a 10-minute clip of the last known video of men and women, like men specifically, who, before they committed suicide, what they were doing, hanging out with their family, looking happy. well,
We'd never
fucking
know.
something's obviously going on there, right? Like so much
For sure.
deeper than anyone knows. So,
Yeah.
so that not having your purpose or feeling on the outskirts, that's a big one. I want to, like, that's something I'm going to dive into in multiple episodes.
Definitely,
in terms of,
definitely.
that's a whole thing on
Yeah.
its own. But yeah, and just for those at home who do like cold tubs,
yeah.
what temperature do you currently keep your cold tub at, and why is it so goddamn cold?
I'm sadistic, and
Yes.
3 degrees Celsius.
Fuck.
It is cold.
Yeah.
It is insane.
Hide your hammer cold.
Yeah,
is what it is there.
yeah. You become a female very quick, is what it says. It's one of those things where
And we're canceled.
yeah, and just like, ah, damn it. Well, that was fun.
Just grab a drink.
Yeah. Now to go to my podcast. I'll tell you a funny story about canceling in a minute, but the whole thing for me was the mental resilience. So when I was going through all my stuff, I was doing cold immersion out in the rivers, the lakes, and all this stuff, and then a friend of mine who's actually with the fire department is Wim Hof certified instructor, and he goes overseas and trains with Wim Hof and cold immersion, and so when opening the clinic, one of the first things was, okay, want to buy the plunge.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was Ben and I both were doing regular cold plunges. So we would actually, we already knew the benefits of this. Him as a medical doctor, myself as someone who's been through a lot and saw the benefits on that personal level, right?
It is really beneficial. Like, I mean, I think the science is out on that. Like, it's not so much a thing anymore. It's good for you.
Yeah,
it just can't fucking do it at 3 degrees, man. Like, I don't want to do hard stuff anymore. I don't want to.
At the end of the day, it's like, I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, you plunge regularly. I'm like, yeah, but I still have instant regret as soon as my pinky toe touches that water.
Instant.
Because I know that the next couple feet of my body are just going to be colder and colder and colder. And then you're like, but when you come out of there, that euphoric high that you have, you can't even describe it, right? Like, we had a patient of ours who, without going into too much detail, but just a young guy, and he'd been in and out of rehab number of times.
Okay.
And his parents approached me and said, do you have anything at your clinic that would benefit him? And I said, well, there's a lot of research on cold immersion and light therapy, photobiomodulation for addictions. I said, we can give it a shot. We can try this. So I met with him because he wanted help. Just young guy wanted the help, right?
Yeah.
And you can't force someone to change until they're ready to, right? So we put in place a schedule for him. And when I say we, it was him and I sat down, went through stuff, and we went and broke down. I said, listen, like, just come in. I'm going to get you in the plunge and I'll get you in the light pod, and we're going to do this together. And so he started coming in multiple times a week. And a year and a half passed, he'd been clean and hasn't looked back. And it was kind of one of those aha moments where it was like, oh shit, like this stuff really works. You can read all the literature you want, but until you see it firsthand, right?
It's everything, right? Like, and then that person tells this person and such, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The cold thing is interesting because of the reset to your CNS too.
For sure,
like
for sure.
So no, that's great. Yeah. So we talked about Nobility, which is a fantastic piece. I know you're going to continue to grow that. Possible expansion plans, we'll see.
And definitely there.
What comes next for that? I want to jump over to, well, actually, first thing, you have a dog in the clinic.
Yes.
Yeah.
An amazing dog, Gia.
Yep.
So when I was saying that
little rescue,
everything that I'd been through, her owner, Liam, was actually my massage therapist through my last spinal surgery and leading up to it. And
who's fantastic, both as an individual and as a clinician.
Yeah. Listen, like, at the end of the day, I know it sounds like I'm biased because I own the clinic, but I really, truly do believe that nobody is going to compete with the level, the skill sets, and just genuinely people that care as what we have at the clinic. Like, they truly do care. They bring that home. Yeah. They research stuff. They come back the next day. They talk amongst the group. Like, it's
you see
remarkable, right?
Yeah.
Like, but so Liam for years was my massage therapist, and highly effective, made a huge difference for me. And we talked while I was getting treatment when he was at a different clinic getting treatment, and about the idea of I was opening this clinic, and we talked about him wanting to do a little change of pace with what he was doing. And so we had discussions on that. And I said, listen, I would never take you from here, because that's bad mojo. I'm not into that.
Yeah.
But he was working at 2 other clinics at the time.
Yep.
I said, when I open this clinic, I want you to come over. And so he eventually did.
Yep.
And then eventually it started growing for him, where he started geared performance, was able to do weights and doing the rehab work as well as the massage side. And with that, we ended up expanding the space for him at the clinic, and he came full time over, and hasn't looked back. I mean, it's been.
He's really good at what he does. I agree. Evil with that scraper.
But
it
crest
works.
and stuff.
But it's fucking works.
Highly effective.
As much as I hate it.
But then he ended up go back to Gia. Him and his then fiance, now married. They ended up rescuing this beautiful pup and brought her into the clinic, and she was beautiful, but she was a hellion.
Yeah.
She was like, oh man,
little barker jumper.
You have to jump and lick everybody and run up and down, and we have a really long hall, and she's zigzagging back and forth on that thing. It was just very disruptive, and that's when I was like, I got a friend.
I might know someone.
Yeah, I might know somebody. So I think Post Malone just wrote a song about that. But so I got someone for that. I got a guy for that, and he reached out to you, and and kudos to both of you, because he asked me about doing the training in the clinic. I was like, absolutely. Like, this is, and you had brought it up to me. You're like, hey, listen, like, if this is the environment she's in, let's get her in here and do this. And that's where the training started and continued at home with them, obviously. But game changer now. Like, she escorts people to the room. She sits at the front door. She waits for people, goes, sits at the front door, and then walks them into the room. Like,
so training with Liam was a dream, honestly. He's one of the clients that I truly enjoy working with.
For sure.
And will always be, because I know how much of an effort he made in order to get Gia to where she is, and she is fantastic.
Brilliant.
She's gone from I need to be a dog on a 40-foot fucking stupid long recall leash to completely off lead, living the best life under e-collar control. Great with new people, clients, loves to come say hi. Just builds the, it makes it so nice for the clinic as well. It's a whole other piece for the clinic, let alone the people in his room. So
I mean, we joke about it. She's the all-star of the clinic, right? Like, as much as I praise the staff themselves, everybody comes to see Gia. And
loves the dog.
What's interesting about it is that just last week I had a gentleman come in, and we have I think probably 3 individuals that are very fearful from childhood experiences of dogs. And anyways, this gentleman came in, and I saw him stop at the far end of the hall, and I approached him. I said, we have a clinic dog. Are you comfortable with that? And usually try and get that before they enter the clinic. And he's like, I'm very afraid of dogs. And he's like, but she seems really calm. And she was just looking at him. She literally sat down, looking at him. It was like she could just sense that he was uncomfortable. And then he's like, well, do you mind staying here and you can have her come over? He's like, maybe this is a good opportunity where I can learn my fears and deal with my fear. And sure enough, that's actually what happened.
It's not a big Rottweiler or something.
No. And as soon as I said to her to come over, she came over, and she sat down a couple feet away from him. And then he approached her, and then he put his hand out and pet her. And it was just really interesting because, afterwards she was in the room, and afterwards he was at the front and talking to me, and he's like, wow. He's like, I didn't think I'd be able to like be around a dog, like
changes the atmosphere, right?
For sure.
So, which is great. And so I love that. Love Gia. I want to touch on one of your more recent changes in your life and what that's added to your plate. Understanding that this could be a whole thing on its own. So you were named chair for the Ottawa chapter of the Ride for Dad.
Yes.
So talk to me how that happened, just quickly, and how what the message is for Ride for Dad and what you have planned coming up for it.
So I started 10 years ago now, with the Ride for Dad doing photography for them. A friend of mine was with the city. She was actively involved. She was on the executive for the Ride for Dad, and she approached me and said, "Would you be interested in doing some photos?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like I can absolutely get behind any charity work, right?" I grew up in a family where my mother and father were both very active in charity work. My mom was the president of Lioness. My dad was running the Block Parents back in the day, and so I grew up in that world of charity work and community work. And so I said, "Yeah, I'll take the photos for it." And so I started doing the photos. And I mean, ironically enough, it was like, back in the day when my kids were young, I would do photos, do portraits, and I called it Say Cheese for Chio, and I would just donate to Chio. And I always said it was an insurance policy that I hope I never have to take out. And then I had the same philosophy. Luckily, I didn't have to take that out with Chio, and other than a few or a broken leg from my son one time with some sports. But then fast forward, I was approached and asked, and I said, "Yeah, sure," thinking again, maybe it's that insurance policy I won't ever have to take out. And so the Ride for That is for the fight against prostate cancer. So 1 in 8 men statistically in North America will develop prostate cancer over their lifetime. And so I did that, and I started being involved. And then ironically enough, my father was actually diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it was everything that the Ride for Dad was preaching to the community about early detection, a simple PSA blood test, all of these things. And all of those things were the things that my dad actually was doing, ironically. And then he had a family doctor who refused to give him a PSA test one year. By the time he fought and advocated for himself to get this PSA blood test, his prostate cancer was so far advanced. His PSA level was 17, I believe, at the time, and very, very far advanced. And my dad started radiation treatment. And so he was able to drive from Perth to Kingston at the beginning. Then it got to a point where then my mom doesn't do much, at the time, didn't do much driving. And then I would come down from Ottawa, going opening clinic and all that kind of stuff. Right? So we ended up doing that, and then traveling to Perth, get my parents, drive them to Kingston, get treatment, come back back to Ottawa for my own family. And so that went on. And then my dad ended up had gone into remission for a short time, and then started seeing some indications of some symptoms going on. And it was actually it was Alina, my spouse, who was like, it's actually looks like it's probably spread to bone now at this point. And he was having a hard time sitting and things like that. So we were pushing for that same family doctor to get imaging done. And the family doctor didn't want to do imaging. And so we really fought and fought and fought. And by the time they did the imaging, my father had 2 bone masses that were about the size of my fist now, one on his sit bone and one on his hip.
That's why sitting, I guess, really hurt.
And in a lot of pain. I think at that time, my mom and dad had gone through 2 or 3 lazy boy chairs to see if he could get comfortable. And so then he started treatment all over again for that. But by that time, it had spread too far into his, in through the bones, into his spine. And during all of that, ironically enough, I was still active with the Ride for Dad. And then my father ended up passing away.
I'm sorry.
In 2021 from what started as prostate cancer. And then I was approached by the national branch of the Ride for Dad and asked if I would come on board and be a co-chair at the time with the existing co-chair. And so I said yes to that. I would jump on board and do that, and where I could help. And then last year I ended up taking over completely as the chair. So now we're our 25th anniversary. And 25 years ago, a gentleman, Byron Smith, who was the president of the Police Association, was approached by Gary Jantz, who was a journalist actually at West, and approached him and in a Tim Hortons, how Canadian is this, but Tim Hortons on Meadowlands Drive, and said, Gary said to Byron, how's your prostate? And Byron jokes, he's like, well, this conversation's gonna go nowhere quick. And so Byron was getting ready to leave, and they started talking more about it. And Gary mentioned that he had just done a piece on cancers and prostate cancer, and this gentleman that he interviewed said, you know, Gary, if I had known about early detection, I wouldn't be leaving this interview and going home to plan my funeral. I'd be going to plan my future.
Fuck, man.
And Gary and Byron started the Ride for Dad then. And I mean, I have the utmost world of respect for these two gentlemen. And, you know, they've been doing it for 25 years. And so this is, you know, it's a huge honor for me, you know, being the chair of an executive team of just passionate people. Currently, we've raised nationally over $43 million. The Ottawa chapter has donated actually over $8 million to the Cancer Center alone here in Ottawa, and just literally saved countless lives. We don't even know how many lives. And every year we do a free PSA clinic in Winchester Hospital. Every single year I have men coming up to me saying, thank you. Like, I'm alive today because of this clinic. Like I wouldn't have known the importance of a PSA test.
Yeah,
and so
that's got to feel good.
Yeah. So it's a, you know, it's kind of one of those full circle moments for me where, you know, I wasn't able to save my father, but I'm seeing the good that's being done within this group and the community itself. And so this Saturday, actually, we have, will be May 24th, and we have our first bike night in Carleton Place, which I did you know, a great video with the mayor there.
I noticed that,
and that's the thing, like we have all these different people that are, you know, politicians and influencers and everything that you know, put it out there and just have fun with this. And like, hey, the importance of getting the message out there for men over 40 to get the simple test done. So that's what we're doing. June 7th, we'll be starting at the Canadian Tire Center and doing a parade for the kids at CHEO as well, where we're donating actually a couple hundred teddy bears to them. That's awesome. And then leaving out of town, going to do for the 25th anniversary, actually a memorial run into the town of Perth for my dad. That was something I want, and our ride captains were, you know, kind of blessed me with that one and incorporated that into the route. And then so my mom and my dad's friends are going to actually work a poker stop there, and then they're coming. All the riders will come back into Canadian Tire Center and
a big party.
We got Boston Levi, a local band, performing. We have food vendors. We've got, you know, all kinds of different activities for families. You know, 2,000 or so motorcycles to go and watch and look at, and so you don't even have to be an enthusiast of motorcycles.
Just
like,
just to enjoy. Get
involved. It's
so June 7th.
June 7th,
Canadian Tire Center. What time does it start?
So kickstands are up at 9:30 in the morning from the hospital. Leaving hospital, going to Kentville, into Perth, and then probably they'll be in Perth around 11:30, and then back into for, you know, noon, 12:30 on.
So Canadian Tire Center, 12:30 on into bands, food.
Exactly.
Some different celebration, different vendors and stuff too.
There'll be vendors. There'll be. I know you're out of town, but you know, we were looking for that from you. I'll find some new friends. But no, it's just again supporting local, getting the local community out, being a part of it, and at the same time, of course, the education piece, making sure that people know the importance of a simple PSA test, because like a lot of cancers, it's avoidable. Like, there's certain things that we can do, or certain things that when I say avoidable, I mean death. If we get early detection, there's a better high probability that we're going to be able to save a life there. So
where can people find info about Ride for Dad and Nobility?
So simple. Ride for Dad, for instance, is Ottawa Ride for Dad, Instagram, or Facebook. You can also go to ridefordad.ca, which will have the list of all the different chapters, etc. You can go there, and then nobilityperformance.com, and also at Nobility Performance, Nobility with an N, and they can go and check us out. And I loved people to be a part of both of the communities, really.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they're growing. They both seem to be growing. You're crazy busy.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for what you do. So like I
awesome.
use your guys' services all the time. Come steal your coffee a lot too.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I'll make sure all this information gets posted to you guys as well.
Perfect.
So thank you for sitting down with us today. Please go ahead, check out Mike, his different interests, his companies, the Ride for Dad, such an amazing chapter, what they're doing here in Ottawa, as well as Nobility Performance. Please go ahead and take a look, find them, go there, use their services. They are fantastic people.